Hi, I'm Chris from Lecture Owl, and welcome to Music for All. In this 10-part course, I'm going to teach you how to play guitar from picking up a guitar for the very first time all the way through to playing your very first song. In today's episode, we're going to put everything together and guide you through writing a song using our demo song as an example. And we'll finish that lesson with a demonstration of that demo song. Okay, so now that you've learned all the tools, let's put it together and write your first song. So I'm going to go over the demo song that we worked on to use as an example and guide you through how we wrote that, giving you the structure on how to write your song. So the first thing we started out with was figuring out what our chord progression was going to be for the chorus riff. And we tried a whole bunch of different progressions. We tried, and we tried this, and none of them really stood out. So we thought, let's just make it super simple. We'll use the 1, 5, 6, 4 chord progression. And initially we tried that in E minor, and it sounded like this. And now that sounded good, but Carliana had a little bit of trouble hitting those high notes perfectly with her vocal range. So we decided to change the key to match her vocals, and then we switched it into C major, which is the C, G, A minor, and then F major. And it sounded like this. So we liked the way that sounded, and we decided to really bring it forward, so we used a lot of fast and powerful strumming for that. So then the next thing we did is we sat down and charted out the chord progression on a piece of paper. And so we wrote down our C chord, our G chord, etc., etc., etc. So what charting is essentially writing out the structure of your song in an easy-to-read way that anyone can follow. To chart a song, you're going to write out the chords you play, the measures in the song, and group them by section. For example, if the verse is 8 bars of 4 chords per one time through the verse, you can chart it with 4 bars per line or 8. Now again, how you go about writing a song is strictly up to you, and you can write the lyrics first or decide the structures first, or even start at the beginning and then write each part in order. It's completely up to you. The way shown here is just our method for coming up with this song. So after you've decided on your main chord progression, chart it out. Again, we charted our chorus, which was just 1 bar each of C major, G major, A minor, and F major. So after we figured that out, the next thing we went to was the verse. And we played around with a few different chord progressions, always playing off of that chorus. So we knew we had a C, we had a G, and initially we tried something with a C and a G, and it sounded like this. And it just didn't feel quite right, so we experimented with several other riffs, and then we finally came to we played our regular G major, but we made the C, you just move the 2 fingers down to the C chord position, but you keep your ring and pinky fingers on the 3rd fret. And so it sounded something like this. And that still wasn't quite right, so we switched around the chords, and our initial verse sounded like this. And that was good, but it still didn't quite have the dynamics we were looking for. So what we decided to do is kind of play less strumming. And we thought that was perfect. So we charted it down. And again, ours was very simple, just a bar of G and then a bar of C major add 9, which is a fancy way of saying you play the C major chord on the low strings and then the G chord on the high strings. So after you've decided on your verse, chart it down. Next, we switched over to the pre-chorus. And so we thought, how could we add punch and dynamic instrumentally to kind of really bring that up? And so what we did is we messed around, and then we decided on taking out the high strings from the chords and just playing our G and our C, and with downstrokes and just the low strings, and that sounded like this. That had just enough drive and still kind of left you feeling like something was coming after it. And so that was the perfect instrumental. So then we wrote that down. Our pre-chorus was essentially the same as the verse, but here you see it's only the major chords being played. So once you've decided on your pre-chorus, you can chart it down. And again, you want something that builds from your verse and prepares you for the chorus. Once we had all of these riffs kind of roughly charted, we then looked at our bridge. And for the bridge, we decided to use a chord progression which we had played around with earlier, which was C to D. And we chose this because it changed the key. So far, the entire song had been in the key of C major. And so to break away from that and give the song a little bit of feeling, we switched to E minor, and that gave it just the right feeling. So then we wrote that down. To keep with the structure of the song, we kept the bridge nice and short with just 8 bars, playing each chord transition 4 times. So once you've decided the rough structure of your song, you can begin working on a bridge and charting it down. Now, once we were done with the bridge, we looked at how to play the hook and the intro, and we decided to kind of keep the hook and the intro using the same chord progression as the chorus, but just slow it down a little bit. So we experimented with different styles and came up with and essentially we just kind of experimented with arpeggiating and strumming and kind of came up with kind of playing the low bass notes and then strumming or picking at the higher notes, and we came up with something like this. Something along those lines. And we played around with that, going back and forth until we found something that felt right. Now, once we came up with that, for the hook, we just added in some strumming, very similar to the chorus, but with a slight different strumming pattern, and then we wrote all that down. We decided on 1 time through the intro and then 1 time through the hook. Now, once we were done writing the guitar parts, we charted it all out, and it looked something like this. And this is with 1 time counting as 4 bars. So the intro we played through once, then the hook once, the first verse was 2 times, and then the second verse we played through 2 times. The pre-chorus was 2 times, and again that means that it was 8 bars. The chorus was 2 times, so 8 bars. Then we had our hook, which was 8 bars. Then our third verse was once again 8 bars, or we played through it twice, you could say. And then our pre-chorus we played through twice. Then our bridge was another 8 bars. Then our final chorus was 8 bars. And then our outro, or our second hook, where we played through it twice, and there was 8 bars. So after you have your riffs decided upon, you can write out your song structure and chart it out. Now, one important thing to pay attention to is, how does the song feel? So play through each part and make sure that it feels right. Make sure that, your changes feel like they should be changes, and you can extend or shrink down parts however you see fit. Now, once we were done figuring out the guitar parts and writing them down, we began working on the lyrics. Now, we started with brainstorming what we wanted to do. We had already decided on doing a song about Kelowna, so we brainstormed different things that we liked about Kelowna, and we decided to make it about a feeling. And we both found that the sunsets here were very powerful, almost like magic, and that was the basis for our chorus. So we made it really simple, and we followed an AA rhyme scheme. Next, we looked at the verse and again decided on an AA rhyme scheme. We broke that up and made it more of an A-B-C-B scheme. We brainstormed different ideas and ran them by each other until we massaged out some verses that we liked, and then we wrote those down. Finally, we brainstormed some ideas for a concept that would build, and we really struggled here, but finally settled on something silly and fun.
Ogopogo's there.
Once we had finished this, we wrote it all out, began practicing, and recorded a few takes of our final song.
Okay. Somewhere in the mountains, way out west, there is a home I love, that I love best. Vineyards and orchards, wind in my hair. There's a feeling I can't explain, beyond compare. The valley's always sunny, magic in the air. Okanagan Lake is the Ogopogo's there. There's a certain feeling that you get when you're looking out at that curve on the sunset. Yeah, out at that curve on the sunset. Cruising down Big White, or Gordon Drive, I get that feeling, reminder I'm alive. The valley's always sunny, magic in the air. Okanagan Lake is the Ogopogo's there. There's a certain feeling that you get when you're looking out at that curve on the sunset. Yeah, out at that curve on the sunset. Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching Music for All. We hope that you found this course very helpful and very valuable, and that it's helped you expedite your journey into music. Again, as always, if you have any questions or want to know more, please feel free to visit us at lectureowl.com. Thanks again.